Good evening, family. It is July 5th. Welcome. How's everybody doing? We're just checking in with everybody to see how everyone's doing the day after America's birthday. So, we celebrated the 250th anniversary year of the signing of the Declaration of Independence on yesterday, the 4th of July. Check in and let us know how your 4th of July went. Welcome, family. I hope you had a wonderful, wonderful holiday. How are you? Peace and blessings to you. Much love. Thank you to you. I'm so grateful that you all are here today because it's a holiday. People could say, "No, I don't feel like being on YouTube today." So, welcome. Check in and let us know what you thought about yesterday. For me, it was very peaceful. I had all of my family here, all of my children, grandchildren, some of my grandchildren, and it was very peaceful. Um, Life is good. You know, life, what I'm learning and what I've known about the reality in which we live is oftentimes we experience life based on our expectations and based on our experiences. So when I hear people say things will never change, it'll never happen, and I look at their life, that's what their life presents like a sense of hopelessness because people literally have control over their lives. When we expect wonderful, great things to happen, we actually live as if it is happening because that's the timeline that we're on. When we imagine things to be amazing and glorious, and we prepare for that, and we make the decisions in alignment with abundance, that's what we experience because we know that abundance is our birthright. And I'm telling you, where I am in my life right now is so peaceful and joyous. And it just is probably the happiest I've ever been in my life, even though all around I hear bad news. Like I've heard, that we could have a shutdown, which I don't see it as a bad thing if the world shuts down again. I see it as an opportunity for people to spend time with family and an opportunity for a reset. So let me know what you all think about the reality into which we're living. You've been watching me for a while? Thank you. I'm so grateful. Great evening to you. And if you've been following me over the last week, you know that I said I would help people who needed some assistance with their credit because even though credit is going to be done away with completely, if you need something right away, like a house or a car, or you need to rent something right away, I'm available to help the Soul Tribe. Now, I've publicly expressed how I felt about credit, and I've helped people with their credit because I was a credit repair specialist. I had my own company. Um, and so publicly, I actually talked about how to repair your credit, how to remove negative items like collections and judgments from your credit report, and how to increase your credit score. Just in case while you're in the matrix, you want to play the matrix game so that you acquire some of the things that you may desire. And so that was publicly, but on about 2 or 3 days ago, I actually did a private group. And in my private group, thank you. In my private group, I help people to write a letter to discharge or to completely remove negative items from their credit report. I told them about their credit score and how you come up with the score and how you can work on each aspect of this pie chart of the that determines your credit score. So if you're interested, we did. I mean, it was like a 2-hour video, but you can speed it up if you like. It's in my membership only section. If you're interested in um, listening to what I had to say and me answer some of the questions, then just hit the join button on any of my videos, even this video, or just on my YouTube channel, and you'll see that video that explains how to increase your credit score, what type of things to work on, what should be in that letter that you send to the credit bureaus, and how if you want to speed up things and you want to bypass sending letters to the credit bureaus, how you can deal with the collection agencies. Because in the matrix, they have systems in place to enslave us or keep us shackled, but they always provide an avenue out. They always provide what we call a ram in the bush, an opportunity to get out of the system, or either look for loopholes and use the loopholes to help yourself. And I expressed through a testimony and self-disclosure how after my husband passed and I hadn't been working as much as I had before, how I got behind in certain things in my credit and how it prevented me from getting certain items that I wanted, even though I was making money, even though my income was the highest it had ever been. Because my credit score wasn't A1, I wasn't able to get certain things. But I told the private group about a few things that I did, and within, I want to say, like 30 to 60 days, I would say probably 60 days, my score shot up, and I was able to leave the area that I was in and move to just a quiet, beautiful, peaceful, semi-country, not country, but semi-country like atmosphere where it's just more greenery. And I said, it can happen to the best of us, that we can get behind on certain things. If you have a passing in your family, or you lose a job, or anything can happen, or you miss, and I talked about how you can miss one payment and it can lower your score 100 points. So that was a very, very good lesson that we did in the private group membership group only. But what I will tell you all is, if you don't have the funds to join that private group, because we do pay for that private group, then just know that there's a loophole. There's a ram in the bush. There is a way out. And you can hire a credit repair specialist to help you, or you can go to the post section of my public YouTube channel and you can look through there and you can find what I say about the letters that you can use to write to credit, not credit bureaus, credit bureaus. But President Trump did dismantle the federal department that provided oversight to credit bureaus. So if you dismantle the federal department that provides oversight to credit bureaus, then it stands to reason that the next line of I want to say the last line of defense, against those credit bureaus, or the next step in the plan would be to completely dismantle credit bureaus like Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. And by the way, one of those credit bureaus is not even headquartered in America. So I just wanted to put that out, that we did that video a couple of days ago with our private group members. And sometime this week, I'll come back in the private group to answer any questions once people have had the opportunity to send those letters to the credit bureaus and demand that they remove negative items from their report. Because you have that power to remove judgments, bankruptcies even, that's supposed to stay on your credit report for 7 to 10 years, inquiries that are on your credit report, collections, all those judgments, everything can be removed from your credit report. And another thing that a lot of people don't know is if you move around a lot, some people don't want to offer you credit or extend credit to you. So you can also remove some of the addresses from your credit report. So that's just an announcement I want to make. If you are thinking about joining a private group so we can talk about how to get your credit up to par, how to increase your credit score, how to invest in precious metals, or how to invest in foreign currencies, then do so at your own time. And there's no rush, because there are other people online that talk about it. But this is something that I'll offer for the silver membership group. And then I had a gold membership group that I tried to actually remove from my YouTube channel twice, but people keep signing up. So I'm like, oh, well, I'm going to continue on. And with the Gold membership group, the people will get a free copy of my book, which is finished. Hallelujah. And the book is one of my prized possessions. It's part of my legacy that I'm leaving behind for my posterity, so that my grandchildren and great grandchildren and great grandchildren and future generations can learn a little bit about me. Thank you so much for sending the Cash App donation. Thank you. So the book is is called The Silver Legacy by Dr. Kia Pruitt. And in the book, we talk about the history of money. We talk about how money evolved throughout the generations, how it evolved from using precious metals and bartering to fiat, and now probably most likely back to gold and silver. And I had to phrase it that way, because if I say we definitely are going to gold and silver, do you know that I could be sued? Or there's some, because there are some nefarious people out here that just do not want you to talk about us going to the gold standard. And I've been told that by financial advisors and by professionals. And I know it to be true because I had 8 channels removed from YouTube over the years, because I predicted or prophesied based on what I could see happening, and based on studying history, that I prophesied or just foretold that we were moving to the gold standard. And I was told time and time again on all of on my channels, stop talking about it. And I had my channels removed. But here we are with 45, and some articles say 46 states reclaiming silver and gold as legal tender. So if you want to, know about that, then in my book, I talk about the history of money. I talk about the 3 pillars of investing. How, three, and those are just 3 ways or 3 means in which or by which people invest in real estate, precious metals, and stocks and bonds. And I give just some information about that without, putting myself in harm's way so that I won't get sued. But I talk about the 3 pillars. I talk about what that means. I talk about the BRICS bloc and how the Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa coalition, known as BRICS, is how I had the phrase like most likely leading the world to the gold standard. I had to be very careful in my language, because this is a book that other financial professionals will read, and although I wrote it for families, other financial professionals will critique my work because I'm talking about precious metals and finances. So you have to be careful, because some of those people will sue you because they weren't allowed to talk about gold and silver, and they were only allowed to push certain products that the banks told them to push, or that the banks for which they worked provided, or they can only talk about and provide certain products that were mainstream. So some of those people get very uncomfortable and or jealous if some everyday woman or even a professional such as myself speak on those things that they traditionally historically weren't allowed to speak on. So I talked about the 3 pillars of investing. I talked about the BRICS bloc and how it's leading the world to the gold standard, allegedly. I talk about in my book what the global currency reset is, and how we see a global currency restructuring, meaning that most nations are restructuring the way they deal with money and the way they use money. I talk about that in my book, and then I transition all that information into what you can do as a family to leave a legacy for your posterity. So all of that information we parlay into how to invest, what you can consider investing in terms of accumulating assets. And then I go into how to protect your assets. And I talk about the different trusts that manage your assets. I talk about the different trusts, and I talk about wills. But I had to be very careful and meticulous in terms of what type of trust I speak on. Because even though it's public knowledge that there are some trusts that are out there that can help you hide or protect your assets so that you reside outside the jurisdiction of the government or the government oversight, I still had to be very careful when my book was being critiqued by professionals to not say that this is 100% certain. Because again, this is not something that the mainstream is ready for people to know that you can live in the private. So there are some private trusts that would completely shelter you away from the government and taxations, but there are some private trusts that are only semi-private, okay? That although you might be protected, you still may be um, required to pay certain amount of taxes on some of your assets. It's wild. You just have to be very mindful how, as an author, you word your advice or your material. So when I talk about asset protection, I talk about different trusts, but it's not detailed because not only do I not want to get caught up in litigation, but I also don't want to confuse my audience. I want to just talk about what trusts are, the difference between a trust and a will, why both of them can serve you and how they can serve you and protect your assets. And I left room for the audience to study on their own different types of trust. But what I'm doing is providing the information so that families can then make decisions for themselves, educated decisions. And then I don't stop there. I go in the end towards the end of the book to talk about family governance. And that's the proudest part of my work that I have, because I talk about how you have to have continuity and structures in place to protect your assets, and how my family lost their wealth way before I even was born. No, 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 right after I was born, but before I was able to enjoy the wealth from my great grandmother. My family lost it through spending and not knowing how to manage wealth. So I said, I'm never going to let that happen again, because, I grew up very, very poor, living way below the poverty line, although my great grandfather was very wealthy. And I didn't even know this, okay, until and I talk about that, but until a certain age, and I talk about it in my book. I don't want to give it away, but through family governance, you can teach and prepare your children and your posterity to also accumulate and maintain their wealth. And so this kind of reminds me of Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. For those of you who study psychology, you understand that there is a hierarchy, or a just like a orderly uh, way of how humans succeed or thrive in society. And on this hierarchy of needs, at the base, it's like a pyramid or a triangle. At the base of the triangle is basic needs must be met: food, clothing, and shelter. And then above that is safety and security. So you must have your food, clothing, and shelter, your basic needs met before you can feel safe and secure. That's the rung up above that. And then above that is love and belonging. So when you have food and clothing, and then you have safety and security, then you start, feeling, then you need to have your loving and belonging needs, meaning you need to feel loved by your community, or you can learn to love yourself, and you have a place in society because your basic needs are met and you feel safe. And then after love and belonging, that next rung is self-esteem. You start to feel really good about yourself. You start to feel like you matter. But you don't. It's hard to have self-esteem if all those other needs below that one are not met. And then after self-esteem needs are met, then you go on to the next rung, which is self-actualization, meaning now you can work on maximizing your potential. Now you can work on your life purpose. But it's hard to tell somebody, oh, fulfill your life purpose, if they're hungry and they haven't had met those needs. But Abraham Maslow, who was a humanistic psychologist, stopped at self-actualization, fulfilling your purpose, feeling secure. And he stopped. That was the highest part of his triangle, the very top. Um, and he said that self-actualized people feel good. Yeah, all of your needs are met, and you now live in your purpose. You might be working in your ultimate career, and you're doing well. But then there was another person most recently, I want to say like about 20 years ago, because Abraham Maslow created the hierarchy needs around the 50s. There was somebody a couple, maybe 2 decades ago, that revisited Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And if you can reach a higher point in your life that's beyond um, self-actualization, and that's called transcendence. Transcendence is when you, as a highly self-actualized person that's operating your purpose, now you're helping other people to reach self-actualization. And that's where my book comes in. That's where I am in my life. Now I'm teaching others how to do the things that I've learned. Now I'm teaching others to become highly self-actualized. The book talks about how my family lost wealth, and how now that I've come to an awareness of the importance of wealth, not just because it's about money, but for me, it's about legacy. Legacy. What is it that I'm determined to leave behind? What is the imprint and impact that I'm leaving on society? What is the impact and imprint that I'm leaving on my children and grandchildren and future generations? That's posterity. But I'm going beyond my bloodline. What is the impact that I desire and have committed to leave on humanity in the world? And that impact that I'm leaving is teaching people how to become highly self-actualized, how to live out your purpose, and to reach the place where you're maximizing your potential, so that you can teach others to do the same. So I'm very, very grateful to the Most High for where I am in my life, and for having the opportunity to share the wisdom that the Most High and my ancestors have granted me. And I'm even more grateful to you all for being here, because you teach me. You teach me how to teach, because sometimes I make mistakes, and you'll help me with that. You have been very good to me. You teach me, you support me, you encourage me, you strengthen me. You really are the wind beneath my wings. I'm only able to soar because I have an amazing soul tribe that supports me and encourages me and lifts me up and provides information and intel so that I can even be stronger and brighter. So I'm grateful for you all. The book will be available actually this month. So it's been with the publisher for the last couple of months. But I went through many different edits, and I just didn't have a team of publishers to help me. I had financial experts. I had to help me, or to critique my work, like to really go through my work and say, this is good, this is not, this is horrible, in fact, and you need to beef this up with more information, and you need to support your claims, and you need to not say something is emphatic, and you need to make sure this is clear information. And even though I was certain about certain things like bricks, and how banks have been accumulating gold at record numbers, if I didn't have a fact to support my claim, they rejected it. So I had to get information from the Bank of International Settlements, the World Economic Forum, and other information that is accepted in mainstream, okay, by economists, by Austrian economists, and was the Keynesian economist. So I had to go through many rounds of editing from just regular editors, which, because I write, I am a writer. I was a writer and a speaker for many years, so most of it didn't need a lot of editing. In fact, very few edits in terms of grammar and all that. But I had to make sure the accuracy was intact and the references, etc. And so I was critiqued by editors. I was critiqued by financial advisors. I was critiqued by people in the precious metal space. I was critiqued by, and I'm talking about professionals, economists that are in the precious metal space. It was critiqued by bankers and former bankers. It was critiqued by estate planners, people who deal with trust. On every level, the book was critiqued. So this is why it took me like 3 months. but it will be available this month. I wanted it to be available before the 4th of July. It will be available this month. I'm so excited about it, and I'm so grateful that the Most High allowed me to write this book so that I can leave a legacy behind. Legacy. What is the impact that you, family, desire and will leave for your family? What is the impact and impression you will leave on the society at large? See, a lot of people don't know about legacy. And so when you don't know about legacy, like what's the impact you're going to leave, and you don't spend time to think about it, then it's hard to really to live your life on purpose or purposefully. And you can kind of just wander, and you can build up somebody else's vision. Because if you don't have a vision, somebody else who has one, they will have one for you, and they will have you working to build up their vision and their mission and their wealth for their posterity. So I often talk about in my works, beginning with the end in mind. If you know the impact that you will leave on society, or that you desire to leave on society, then you can begin your life each day with that end goal in mind. And it just makes life so much joyful. You make fewer mistakes in life because you're living on purpose. Every exercise, every opportunity you have, every experience, everything you do will line up with your purpose when you know it and you're determined to leave a legacy behind. So I just wanted to say all that, because those that are in the gold membership group will get the book for free, as well as some other things, some other perks like gold backs for the Dr. Kia Pruitt show, a private one-on-one consultations, and monthly meetings. Now the silver group, when we have like almost 300 members in the silver group. The silver membership group, we have weekly meetings. They have my personal email address. They have direct access to the Chief Mac, who does some estate planning. And we're even going to do more for the silver and gold membership group. For example, we're going to have a certified financial advisor to come probably next week to talk about different things as it relates to finances. So this is my lane. So this is why it's private, because some people are not interested in financial matters, and some people that are not interested, or it may not be what they think is important for them or their posterity, they may just not appreciate the information. So I saw in the comments somebody asked me what my credentials are, and I'm asked that a lot. So I have a PhD in education and counseling psychology. That's within a higher education realm, where I was trained to become a dean of college students, and I learned a lot of things as it relates to budgeting, finance, management, student personnel decisions, housing, all that as it relates to working with students in higher education. So my PhD is education and counseling psychology within higher education. I have a master's degree in counseling and postmaster's work in economics and business, where I was working on my MBA. I have a bachelor's degree in social sciences, where in the social sciences degree, I actually created an interdisciplinary approach to my own bachelor's degree program that I created for myself with the help of my professors, where I study economics, political science, psychology, and sociology. And I had no idea at that time that I would actually be teaching about wealth, or that I would be a wealth ambassador or the minister of wealth for the Soul Tribe. But I'm also a wealth ambassador and an affiliate for Miles Franklin Precious Metals Company, an A+ rated precious metals company with an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. And the company had been in business for over about 40 decades, reaching nearly $10 billion in sales with no customer complaints. So I'm very proud of my credentials. And as a matter of fact, if you're interested in gold and silver, I would strongly urge you to call Miles Franklin Precious Metals Company. I do have a relationship with Andy Scheckman, the CEO and owner and co-founder of Miles Franklin, the company that he founded with his dad. I have several videos on my channel where I've interviewed him through the years, and we've done shows together. I've learned so much from him. But if you're interested in gold and silver, you can give Miles Franklin Precious Metals a call at 952 929 7006 or send an email to info@milesfranklin.com and let the brokers know that you heard about gold and silver or Miles Franklin Precious Metals Company from Dr. Kia Pruitt. And you'll get the best prices in the industry. So I'm an affiliate with Miles Franklin Precious Metals Company. And for those who are, somebody actually in the comment section, you can read it, ask what are your credentials. You should say that in the beginning. What else? You know, I wrote for the San Francisco Examiner and the Sacramento Examiner when those were popping in like 2008, 2009. Those companies have since dissolved because I used to live in California. Thank you. Thank you so much for the blessing. I appreciate that gift. Appreciate the gift. I also am a certified life coach, and where I studied at the Life Purpose Institute in San Diego, California. And those are the credentials I use to actually write about uh, relationships and different self-actualization and self-personal development with the San Francisco Examiner and the Sacramento Examiner. So I'm a certified life coach. I had owned a credit repair company as well. And my family owned a school, and I worked for a school. So I've done a lot of things. I've accomplished almost everything that I wanted to accomplish all my life. I accomplished by the age of 40. I was married. My husband transitioned. We have 8 children. I have 6 grandchildren. I don't know what else people would classify as credentials, but beyond all that, because I think people want to know like what I don't know certifies me or makes me credible in this space. But more than that, I'm a light being just like you, and I determined to come here for this reality to leave an imprint and an impact on society, a positive impact. My purpose is to raise the vibrations of the planet and inspire the planet to create the most amazing, magnificent life that we all desire and deserve. So I think that's enough in terms of credentials. If people want to know what I studied, what my PhD, what was my research? My research was I am the only female expert in the area of college retention as it relates to retaining and graduating men classified as African American. So my dissertation is called Examining the Factors that Retain and Graduate African American Men, or something like that. You can look up Kia Pruitt or Dr. Kia Pruitt or Kia Marie Pruitt, either one. Maybe just look up Kia Marie Pruitt because I think I defended my dissertation with using my whole name. Kia Marie Pruitt, University of Louisville, dissertation. You'll see the research that I wrote. It's a whole book. I passed it with honors because it was a very good research that I did. It wasn't just in your research for your PhD. You have to write a review on the information, the overall information. So I had to write a review on how to retain and graduate all college students, right? And that was the first part of my dissertation. Then I had to, after that review, talk about what was missing from the literature. So what was missing from the literature is how to successfully graduate African American men from college. So we talk about recruiting them into college because colleges and universities get a lot of money, federal dollars, to recruit certain people in their universities, but they don't get money to retain or graduate people. Now they'll get money to recruit, foreign nationals. They get money to recruit so-called minorities, African Americans, etc., women. But one thing that was missing from the literature is how do we successfully graduate Black men? And so I said that because that's missing from the literature, that says to, or could potentially say to the world, that we don't care about the success of Black males who are interested in entering college. So people would say, oh, we recruited and matriculated Black men into our university or onto our campus, but if you don't say how you kept them or how you graduated them, then it could seem like that's not a priority. So when I saw that missing from the literature, I said, this is what I'm going to focus on. And then I had to talk about my methodology. What is the method I would use in my research to look into and examine how we successfully retain Black men? Because some of the literature would say how Black men drop out and why they fail. Was a lot of information on Black men failing from college. Black men don't go. Black men fail once they get in there. And it was like all this literature made it seem like there was something wrong with the men. And so what I realized is there is a pathological aversion against men classified as Black in society and in America. And what I mean aversion is people have a mindset, and this is documented, that all Black men are violent, or they're hypersexual, or they're hyper masculine, or they fail, or they all participate in an underground economy. But my research looks at the how men in my community are successful. I said we're going to focus on, and I have to give credit to one of my advisors who said we're done with failures. We're looking at success. We're looking at how we recruit them into college, how we retain them, which means by the time they're at their sophomore year, they're still there. But beyond retention, how you successfully graduate them and matriculate them all the way through until they reach their potential going into grad school, law school, medical school, or the workforce. So I looked at what was missing. I employed a methodology. Most of my methodology was a qualitative study, but I did have some quantitative methodology. For those of you who are in research, you know what I'm talking about, or in academia. So I employed both qualitative and quantitative, although my research was more a qualitative study. And then I actually did surveys, interviews, and I found out that after that you have to crunch the data, do the interviews, crunch the data, and then you have to provide your evidence, what you found, your findings. And then after my findings, I said, okay, now anybody reading my research, this is what I encourage you to do with the information that I've provided. And the last time I looked, there were hundreds, if not thousands, of people, students and professionals and professors that had used Dr. Kia Pruitt's research. By that, wasn't even doctor until I passed that part. They use it to inform their studies and their research. So what my findings were, that all students, but especially Black male students, because that's what I was interested in, need 4 or 5 things in order to successfully matriculate through and graduate from college. And I looked at HBCUs and PWIs, historically Black colleges and universities, but my main goal was predominantly white institutions because that's where I was studying. So they have to have access to money or to go to college. They have to have mentorship. They need to participate in extracurricular activities or academic support programs. They need to participate in some type of programs that make them feel secure about themselves, like indigenous programs, African or Pan-African studies, and they need to have family support. So interesting thing about those things is that a lot of other communities have all those things. Even foreign nationals that come over here, they have all those things, including access to money. So I see my battery is going low. So those things, it was found by my committee that I did a phenomenal job of supporting my claim, and and I passed, and I passed my, what do you call it, comprehensive exams, also known as comps, where I had to go in a lab 4 days straight, 2 to 3 hours each day, and actually defend whatever question they gave me. Like for one, they told me create a counseling program. You said your master's degree was in counseling, create the whole program. So I had to sit in a lab and write how I would create a program from scratch, what my budget would look like, where I would get the money from, who I would recruit, what type of people I would recruit, what type of work they would do, how they would qualify, what I would focus on in the counseling program, each department. I had to talk about psychology, student development theory, all that. You only have a couple hours, and you had to just write, or type with no books, no information, and support your claim. So I had to say, I'm using Abraham Maslow work called self-actualization or something like that from 1954, and you had to cite it in a scholastic work. Uh, Man's, I'm using, in a reference section, um, what's his name? Man's Search for Meaning. I can't think of the guy's name that wrote, the Austrian psychiatrist. Man, and cite what the book was and what year it was published for hours. That was just one question. Then I had to do a student development. I actually passed the student development theory with honors, that right in the lab for like 2 or 3 hours straight on student development theory, spiritual development, psychological development, physical development, mental development, emotional development, and I had to cite sources. So, what are my credentials for what I do? I have a background in all the things about which I speak. Education, I was a teacher, we owned a school, I ran the school, I ran a daycare center for my family, my husband's family. So, education, I got, counseling background, economics, political science, and finance, social sciences. So, but beyond that, what certifies me is that I was called and chosen to do the work, and I answered the call. So it's not just calling. Many are called, but few are chosen, because in order to consider yourself chosen, you need to make your calling and election sure. You need to certify that you were called to do a work by doing the work and doing it well. So that's it. So now I'm going to parlay into geopolitics. I studied political science in undergrad school, and I started studying it again once I realized my family had lost their wealth, and I asked questions to my family. Why are we living in poverty? What is this about? It wasn't even about slavery at all, because my great grandfather accumulated wealth, but it was spent by his children or his child who wasn't taught how to protect her wealth. So that meant all of her children grew up in poverty. All of my generation grew up in abject poverty, and I'm the one that's breaking the generational curse. And I would strongly encourage you to do the same. Now, why is there a question on birthright citizenship right now in America? It's because the wealth that was left here by our ancestors in America is being absorbed by foreign nationals that have wealth in their own homelands that they weren't granted access to. And some of them were granted access to the wealth in their homelands, and they were greedy and came over here and decided to access our wealth. Now, that's not all of them, but this is why President Trump said recently in his response to the Supreme Court deciding against birthright citizenship. He said that before, and he said it recently. Hey, son, how you doing? How you doing? Good, how are you? I'm well. I didn't hear you come in. Okay, I won't be long. I won't be long. So, Trump's response to the Supreme Court, excuse me, was that birthright citizenship was not meant for rich Chinese to come to America and have children here so that their children can become automatic citizens. And then when they would deliver their children here and their children automatically become citizens, the parents would reap benefits by getting access to resources and wealth that was not meant for them. So again, it wasn't just people coming here just to seek an opportunity, people who had issues in their country, but it was rich people from other countries that came here and that were greedy and absorbing the wealth and the resources that were for Americans that our ancestors left for us. You see, the American dream is for Americans, not for foreign nationals who want to be concerned or considered Americans. Being a United States citizen is not the same as being American. And this is where people are a little confused because they don't understand the terms of agreement that they agreed to. The terms of agreement that they agreed to when they entered into contract with the United States Incorporated was that they were allowed to be here on temporary status. And many of them that used the temporary status overstayed their visas and overstayed their welcome. But the ones that delivered their children here, they weren't even supposed to be considered citizens. their children or them, and neither were they to gain access. So President Trump said birthright citizenship was not for foreign nationals. It was for the children of African American slaves to be determined to be, or to be, they can be what's the word I'm looking for? They could be classified as birthright citizen or citizens of the United States Incorporated once they were delivered by the mom who had been enslaved. And that was the 14th Amendment, again, determined for or created for the children of African American slaves after the Civil War. President Trump said it was not meant for foreign nationals. And the country knew that, the government knew that, and even some of the foreign nationals that came here, they knew that. Not all of them, though. They just knew it was a loophole in the system to gain access to our wealth. So what happened was that attorneys and judges used the 14th Amendment and purposely and intentionally misinterpreted it, something that was meant for the slaves of the children of African American slaves, and they utilized that 14th Amendment to allow foreign nationals to be classified as citizens. They applied that 14th Amendment to foreign nationals erroneously and knowingly. And that is why they're going to be arrested and or forced to retire and resign, because they committed treason. And you know they committed treason, and you know that the country knows they committed treason when you look at the Chevron doctrine and you look at the overturning of the Chevron doctrine, because the Chevron doctrine gave the government, or the United States Incorporated, which is not our lawful government, our lawful republic at all. It is a group of bloodline families that usurped authority from our lawful republic after they enslaved African Americans and made us the prisoners of war. Even Pope Francis admitted to that in his letter to Obama, Pope Profio. So why did they enslave us? And why did they change our classification from indigenous to Negro and colored and Black and then to African American? So that we won't lay claims to the land, and we won't know we have birthright and blood right claims to this land. And we won't realize that we are the gods and the giants, and when I mean giants in history, that actually created this amazing, magnificent country. If you misclassify us and tell us we come from another country, then we will lose focus and we will lose hope, and we won't lay hold to the claims of the land and other people from other lands and other nations that then come here and usurp our identity as Americans and live out the lifestyle that was intended for us by our ancestors. So the Chevron doctrine gave the United States Incorporated almost unlimited powers. It expanded their powers. These bloodline families that enslaved us and made us chattel property and prisoners of war of the corporation incorporated themselves in 1871 as a nonprofit religious organization with the Pope as the head, and they created their own constitution called the Constitution of the United States Incorporated. That is different from the republic, our lawful government, and the Constitution for our republic. Constitution for benevolent and lawful. The Constitution of the United States Incorporated, nefarious, unlawful. So the Supreme Court in June of 2024 determined that the United States Incorporated was an unlawful, unconstitutional, treasonous organization, and all of its corporate entities, 447 of the government agencies that we know as FBI, CIA, IRS, Department of Homeland Security, I mean, all these different agencies, they must be dismantled, because they're a part of the corporation that has nothing to do with our republic and nothing to do with ensuring that we have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And instead, they want death, enslavement, and utterly hopelessness, which is the antithesis or opposite of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So the Supreme Court of the United States, the constitutional judges that were there, said the United States Incorporated is an unlawful entity, and any judge that went along with expanding the powers of that corporation or misinterpreting the Constitution for the benefit of the corporation, any judge that did that committed treason. And any judge that knew of a judge that went along with the shenanigans and did not report it to the president, they committed misprision of treason. So you have the corporation, the United States Incorporated, the USA Inc., that's treasonous. You have the judges and the attorneys that went along with it and expanded or misinterpreted laws to allow them to do whatever they want to do, including recruiting foreign nationals here and allowing them to steal our resources. Those judges committed treason, and judges that went along with it and didn't report the judges that committed treason, they committed misprision of treason. So this is why citizenship as a whole must be re-examined, because a citizen is chattel property of the United States Incorporated. A citizen is not a sovereign national. A citizen is a slave of the corporation that pays homage to the corporation for allowing them to have privileges and accesses here. So the corporation enslaves people, make them chattel property to pay off their debts. This is why in the letter Motu Proprio, Pope Francis said, it has been our policy as the United States Incorporated to enslave African Americans after the Civil War to force them to pay off our debt. And then it was our policy to extend slavery and make everybody chattel property to pay off our debts. Now, how do you pay off the debts of the United States Incorporated? The debts they had to the British Crown, the debts they have everywhere, is by you force people to pay taxes. So people think, oh, I'm a citizen. This is wonderful, because they thought being a citizen was being an American, but that's not true. The 1828 Webster's definition of American, and the true definition of American, period, is the copper-colored races encountered in this country by Europeans, but now applied to Europeans, and it's applied to Europeans treasonously, unconstitutionally, and unlawfully. Because just because something was applied to doesn't make it so. Now wait till people really figure that one out. So the definition of American is the indigenous copper-colored races discovered by Europeans, but now applied to Europeans. This is why which Colombian president stood up in 2025 and said before the whole world, at which conference was that? United Nations. The Black people are the only true indigenous people of the Americas, because he was putting out a statement to let the whole world know that they all know, all the leaders know, that the true indigenous people of the Americas are the so-called Black people. But what they've taught everybody in the world is that the brown copper-colored races all came from Africa. They lied. They lied. So that they can misplace us, make us feel like slaves, make us feel worse than anything, make us not accumulate wealth. And you don't even have to accumulate wealth. This was all left by our ancestors. You can make us feel homeless, hopeless, and in despair, while you allow other nationals to come here and give them opportunities, like the opportunity to vote, and make them feel special and entitled. So I feel for those people that came over here, some of them, who had no idea that they were chattel property. They thought they were Americans. They called themselves such and such American, Chinese American, Japanese American, Philippine American, whatever. But they always put their homeland in front because they know they're foreign nationals. They're United States citizens. And they might say, I'm a legal American, but you're not a legal. There's no such thing as legal American. Even if it's null and void, because legal is it has nothing to do with lawfulness. Legal has to do with the United States Incorporated, the fake folk corporation, fake folk government that was considered treasonous and unlawful, even by the constitutional judges of the Supreme Court. Treasonous, unlawful, Unconstitutional. That's why we're under a government shutdown right now, because they're dismantling that government. So they recruited other people first with, I believe it was first the Slavs, the Slavics. Those were the first slaves, Europeans. Then they recruited actually the people that came from Britain that came here to colonize or enslave us indigenous peoples, brought Europeans here. And when you read The Art of War and you read Machiavelli's work, who probably predated The Art of War, or maybe it was around the same time, Machiavelli tells you there are two ways to enslave a nation. You either bring in your military to overturn and overrun that country and to steal their resources, or you bring in a whole colony of people. So they, from Britain, they brought in Europeans. And what you do is they brought their European slaves by the droves. They were the slaves that came on ships, not Black folks from Africa. Okay. So the Europeans were brought over here. We all know this. That's part of the history they got correct. If you know how to dig and read it, read the history correctly, read the right books. But they brought a whole colony of people, and Machiavelli talks about that in his work, to suppress the prisoners of war who are the indigenous people here. And then they misclassify us, and they reclassified us from indigenous to colored to Negro to Black and then African American through their census bureaus, Walter Plecker and other agents, in order to confuse us and miseducate our children so that we wouldn't lay claims to the land. Then you bring in colonies to colonize the people. Unbeknownst to some of the colonists that came over here, they're thinking they're getting opportunities, right? You bring them in, you recruit them, you tell them you'll give them land, you'll give them resources, you'll give them, now speeding up to our time, the opportunity to vote. And they think these are all rights, when they're not rights, they're privileges. The United States government, the corporation, they are not legitimate. They don't have the authority to grant rights. They can only grant privileges. So they afforded privileges and opportunities like voting, like having access to housing and health care, and what else? Education. Those were all privileges that were afforded to all citizens, whether you were indigenous and you were reclassified as a citizen, or you agreed to citizenship, which is slavery, or you were a foreign national that was recruited. So again, citizens are chattel property of the corporation. Even Pope Francis said it was our policy to enslave African Americans as chattel property to pay off our debts, and then it was our policy to extend slavery and enslave everybody as chattel property. That's what citizenship is, to help pay off our debts. So some people are like, but I pay my taxes, I'm legitimate. You're a legitimate slave. Like, really, people just didn't know that. And they will tell you, when you know where to look, that paying taxes is voluntary. We have become voluntary slaves by calling ourselves citizens and enjoying the privileges of the state or the government that enslaved us. But slaves and citizens and chattel property, the same thing. That's a part of the corporation. Sovereign is free beings on the land that have rights, not privileges. You have a right to life, liberty, and a pursuit of happiness. You have a right to the land and the resources that are based upon your blood, because you have what's called blood rights to the land. And foreign nationals have blood rights to the land from which their ancestors come, and birthrights to those lands. So what happened here was that the 14th Amendment was for the children of African American slaves, and that was after the Civil War. That's it. The constitutional attorneys and judges know how to interpret the 14th Amendment. The ones who are nefarious misinterpret it so that they can get kickbacks from the corporation that enslaved the indigenous people here, and from the corporation that recruited foreign nationals here. So President Trump said we have to question birthright citizenship because it wasn't meant for all the foreign nationals and it wasn't meant for the Native Americans. The Native Americans are Siberians. Many of them know that they don't have birthright and blood right claims to this land. They can claim it from where they came, their ancestors came from. So he's questioning all those things because we have to do what's right by the people who were considered prisoners of war here in America. Now, all foreign nationals that came here didn't come here to usurp authority from the indigenous people. All of them that came here didn't come here to steal resources. Many of them came here for opportunities, but I would say a great majority of them came here because they were greedy. And that's why President Trump even said the 14th Amendment wasn't meant for rich Chinese people, because a lot of Asians that are here were already wealthy. And that's why they're at the top of the pyramid when it comes to the economic stratification system that is here in America. It's not about just blacks and whites. The so-called white people are in the middle. You had a whole line of folks that's above people classified as white that's thriving here in America. And you have a whole lot below the so-called white people, and everybody's on top of the heads of the black folks. You ever wonder why black folks are considered niggas, and people try to say we were 3/5 of a person and our brains were not mature, and why we were so somehow inferior to everybody else? Because it's actually the opposite. We have dominant genetics. We are the original people here. We're not 3/5 of a person. We have no Neanderthal or monkey DNA in us, or animal DNA. And so they lied. But everything has to be reversed because the deep state lost. Their time is up. Their time for controlling the world is up. So President Trump said the Supreme Court had it wrong when they ruled 6-3 against me in saying that birthright citizenship is unlawful. They got it wrong. And so Congress has to do the right thing, is what he said. And we're going to make sure Congress passed the correct legislation to get it right and rule that birthright citizenship is unlawful, unconstitutional, and treasonous in the way it has been applied and interpreted. And citizenship in totality has to be dissolved, period. Because a citizen is a slave and chattel property of the United States Incorporated that is non-existent and insolvent and in debt and broke, meaning they can't pay their debts. It's not just the Supreme Court of the United States that overturned the Chevron doctrine and ruled that the United States Incorporated was treasonous, unlawful, and unconstitutional, and all 470 whatever 447 organizations has to be dismantled. It's not just that. It's that the United States Treasury Department, that's a part of our lawful government, ruled that the corporation is defunct, insolvent, can't pay their debts. They don't have any money. They were bankrupted, and they're forced to liquidate their assets. And furthermore, the Federal Reserve Central Banking System that they were using to print out their fake phone money called fiat dollars, they're insolvent. They can't pay their debts. They're defunct. And the countries all over the world made sure of it by refusing to hold on to their treasury bonds. Nobody's buying United States treasury bonds. Nobody's buying United States debts. Nobody's buying state corporate debts anymore. They've all dropped the debt. They all said, I'm not buying any United States of America debt anymore. Therefore, the company, it's a corporation, not even a country, doesn't have money. America, the country, has money. So I was a little disconnected when people say happy 250th anniversary, America, because America's always been here. We've always been here, but I get it because they're saying we as a country no longer have to pay taxes to the British Crown. And since that has all been dissolved and dismantled, you're going to see a systematic collapse. You're going to see all these corporate entities be dissolved. You're going to see a lot of corporations, period, be dissolved that were held up by the corporation called the United States Incorporated that is not the government. The government, the lawful government, is the republic. So again, the United States Incorporated, they have statutes, codes, policies, legalities. What's legal is not lawful. So people can say I'm a legal citizen all day long. It means absolutely nothing at most and very little at the least when it comes to the republic, because the republic is what's lawful. We go by the laws of the land, the lawful republic, the lawful government here. We don't care about admiralty law or what else is the other? Maritime law, the laws of the water, because the corporation considered us dead and lost at sea. But the republic acknowledges us as living beings, and therefore we have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is not about privileges. It's not about voting and all that. Voting was a privilege. We will see a whole new reality, which is why President Trump said Congress is going to do the right thing and pass legislation to end birthright citizenship. And he's moving further, and he's re-examining DACA, deferred action for children. So all those children that were sent here from abroad to our country that were allowed to stay here and live here and enjoy the freedoms and the privileges of the corporation, they have to go back home, because DACA, or deferred action, means just that, deferred action. They were protected temporarily from deportation. They know the terms and agreement. They agreed to be here temporarily, enjoy all the privileges, but they overstayed their time here. They just thought, I can just stay forever. They are crying and upset now, even though they agreed to the terms and agreement that they signed up for which they signed. Deferred action for childhood arrivals was never meant to be, and never was, a permanent lawful pathway to permanent residency here. It was never a lawful pathway to permanent residency here. Now, they might have just overstayed their time, came here and said, okay, I got the education I wanted. Now I'm going to get a job. Now I can go to law school. I can be an attorney. Now I can go all the way up and become a congressman or woman. And many of them are working in government. I can have businesses. I can do whatever I want. But they didn't realize, for some reason, that deferred meant that you're going to get deported at some time. The same government that recruited them and allowed them to come, or extended an opportunity to them and gave them privileges, not rights, but privileges, they used their discretion to say, you can come here and determine how long. These are the same ones that's using their discretion to say it's time for you to go home. DACA is being re-examined, deferred action against childhood arrivals. TPS status, temporary protected status, for those who came here because they had a natural disaster. Even though we had natural disasters, did anybody care about the people of Louisiana who lost their homes and their lives and their children and their resources and their properties and their wealth when Hurricane Katrina? Did countries give them the privileges to come there and give them temporary protected status? I don't know about it. Even the United States government didn't care about them. Maybe it's because they were the Washita indigenous people that actually took the government to court and sued them for stealing the land here from indigenous people. You need to look up the Washita Empress and the Washita people. That's where the name Washington comes from. Washington, George Washington, was a melanated man from the Washita tribe. And many of the people, the presidents were that were preceded the presidents that we know about, either they were melanated indigenous people, or they stole the last names of the indigenous people. We were told our names were names that were given to us by European slave masters. That's a lie. The European slave masters took our names. So the Washita people in Louisiana, so as far as I know, they didn't have countries reaching out to them, say, come and enjoy some privileges here and have temporary protected status. But other people, foreign nationals, were allowed to come here and have temporary protected status while they were accessing our trust and getting social security numbers that really were attached to some of our birth certificate bonds and our ledgers and our trusts. and they were able to have wealth, and and they were protected. They didn't have either they had a natural disaster in their homelands or they had civil war like the Syrians. They had civil war in 2012. But this is like what, 14 years later? The Civil War been over. That's why they have to go back home. The Haitians had a natural disaster, the ones that were brought here by the amount of over 350,000 in 2010. They're still here. They had a natural disaster, hurricane or something of some sort. Thank you so much for the Cash App gift. That was 2010. And 350,000, and the Syrians 61,000, I think, came over here in 2012. They're still here saying, I have a right to stay here. But the natural disaster is over. But we had children and we voted and congratulations. That's beautiful that you had children. That's amazing that you were able to do businesses and that you were able to, build up your network and that you were able to live off the land and the fat of the land and get privileges of the United States Incorporated. It's just that temporary means just that. Doesn't mean permanent. If you understand third grade vocabulary, grade, not even sixth grade. It might even be for first grade. My 8-year-old grandson know what temporary means, but I think that would be third grade, although he's educationally beyond sixth grade. He's classified as gifted, but let's say third grade vocabulary. They know temporary is a short term. It's not forever. It's not permanent. So TPS status. And notice that the people that are here, we need to stay here. We need to protect people here that are here on TPS. Why won't they come? Why won't they say the whole phrase? Why don't they say temporary? The people that are here on temporary protective status should be allowed to stay. They won't say that. They will only say TPS because they don't want you to know that TPS means temporary. Temporary protective status, DACA, deferred action for childhood arrivals, birthright citizenship, H-1B visas. That was a classification for people to come from abroad to work here on a visa. We have 5.3 million Indians from East Asia that are here right now, many of whom came on H-1B status so that they can have jobs in finance, engineering, medicine, and architect. You want to know what are the main jobs that they take, the professional jobs? Just think of FEMA: finance, engineering, medicine, and architect. And that's why they're at the very top of the stratification, economic and financial stratification system here. The East Indians are at the very top because many of them come from the Brahmin class, the highest class. They have a caste system over there. The highest class, they come over here. That's why Trump is saying 14th Amendment was not meant for rich Chinese and rich Asians. Indians are Asians, the East Indians, to come over here and drop off their babies. They came here, dropped off their babies, and or got an H-1B visa to go into finance. If you manage the finances of the people here, you're at the top. If you are taking jobs in engineering, you're dealing with the infrastructure. That is the bridges, that is the sewers, the gutter, that is the structure of America, our country. Finance, engineering, medicine, you're dealing with, now you're in control of their health. An architect. So now you're talking about the structure, the building up houses. What are we talking about here? Then you take into account that millions of fake medical degrees were sold to Indians and other Asians like Chinese here in America. It's documented. This isn't hearsay. This isn't racism. It's not xenophobia. It's the truth. It's facts. It's documented. Millions of fake medical degrees were sold from India on the continent of Asia to Indians here. Some of them were sold to them before they came. Some of them are sold to them while they're here, and Chinese and others. You wonder why we have so many people who were misdiagnosed, most of which were the indigenous, copper-colored, so-called Black people here. Oh, we have more misdiagnoses than anybody. And we suffer from diseases more than anybody on our homelands because we were the prisoners of war. Right? So misdiagnosed, millions of fake medical degrees sold here. So all this rhetoric about we came here with nothing, all this rhetoric about Black folk and other Americans don't want to work, It was all lies. They don't want to, you all don't want to work. You don't avail yourself of opportunities. You need to pull yourself up by the bootstraps. Remember that lingo? You need to learn the values of the all the nationals that come here, and you need to learn how to be married, and you need to learn how to get an education. Meanwhile, they got fake medical degrees, or they come here on F1 student visas. Let's talk about that classification, where they came here maybe to learn English. And as long as they filled out that I-20 form, they can stay here as long as they want. So you got the H-1B visas where they took the jobs in finance, engineering, medicine, and architect. And so that's 90,000 people from Asia, the continent of Asia, that apply for and receive H-1B visas to work here. Per year, 90,000. Then they recruit their spouses. So that's another 90,000. And then you talk about the 400,000 H-1B visas that are renewed every year. You know why so many people can't find jobs? Because the foreign nationals have them. Okay, they came here, get H-1B visas to work in finance, engineering, medicine, and architect. But then there was a whole influx of them that came here to take the factory jobs, the entry-level service industry jobs, the Amazon jobs, okay, the daycare jobs, the teaching job. You can even see videos on YouTube where East Indians are recruiting each other. Oh, come to America and work in these urban communities, and you'll have opportunities, and you'll make a certain amount of money, which is more money than what the Americans make and the other United States citizens make. And while they were working here on H-1B visas, you know how they talk about how they came here on $1 in a dream and didn't know the language, didn't get no opportunities. They got welfare, food stamps, medical benefits, and not just for them, but each member of the household. So some of them got hundreds, if not thousands per person, and food stamps, and monetary gifts, and medical. And don't even get me to talk about having babies here, and it was all paid off. But somebody had to pay that debt. We absorbed it, Americans. So they came 90,000 per year on H-1B visa. Then 90,000 of their spouses were recruited here and given jobs. And then the 400,000 that are processed and renewed each year. That's hundreds of thousands of people on H-1B visas alone, let alone the other work visas, let alone those that came here on temporary status through humanitarian visas, like our friends that we know that came from Cuba and Venezuela and Nicaragua and Haiti. They came here on the humanitarian visas on the Biden administration. Some of them came here during the 80s. I don't know what visa they came under the 80s. Then you had the ones that came in 2010 with the temporary protective status visas because of their natural disaster. And then you have the F-1B visas. Those are the international students that say, I want to come to America and I'm going to learn. But they stayed here forever. Many of them found a legal, not lawful, legal pathway to permanent residency. So as long as they filled out that I-20, they can come here and they can say, I'm going to study English. Okay. They study English. Okay. That's it. They don't go home after that. Then they'll say, I'll get an associate degree. That's a 2-year degree. Then after that, they get a 4-year degree. Then after that, get a master's degree. Then some of them say, I'll go on to law school, get the law degree, the jurisprudence. Then some of them will go on and say, you know what? Now I want a medical degree. Then go and do that. Now I want a second bachelor's. Now I'm going to get a second master's. Now I'm going to get postdoc fellowship. Okay, so you can do that for 4 decades. So now the Trump administration is saying, we got to curtail that. We got to put an end to H-1B visas. So as of 2027, H-1B visas will be completely cut off, zero. We're going down to zero. F-1 visas, if they allow people to come here and study, is only temporarily, and it's a short amount of time. They can't go through all of these different steps to stay here and live off of the fat of the land while we suffer. Because how many of us can't find jobs? How many of us don't have access to health care? How many of us don't have access to education? You know how they talk about we lazy, we don't want to study? No, I even told you, in order to be successful in terms of getting a higher education, you have to have access. Number one, access to finances. Undocumented students receive federal dollars to go to college. We have in our universities undocumented student offices where they get free tuition, free housing, free food, academic support programs, and help to recruit, retain, and graduate them. And undocumented students can get law degrees in America. Undocumented, be here illegally. So all the people that say we need to understand that they had it hard in their country and we need to understand that they had babies here and they paid taxes. We need to understand that they have families here, need to understand while they're telling us to be understanding that we didn't have the same benefits that they had or access to the same things that they have. And at this point, if they agree to go home, it will serve them well. But if they don't agree to go home, there are countries that have stepped up and said, that's okay. They can come to our country. So they don't have to go home, but they have to leave America. And you know what? The people that are saying they have to go home, actually, I'm happy for them. Why are you happy for them, Dr. Pruitt? Because now the wars are over. There are no more hurricanes and tornadoes in their country. That's why they came, right? Right? Am I correct? That's what they say. That's the terms of agreement. The terms of agreement were that they were here temporarily and receive protection from deportation until the situation was worked out at home. No more war. There's no more natural disasters. They've gotten education. They've learned the American way. They've learned our swagger and our style here. They've gotten a lot of resources here, and now they can build up their home countries. I'm very happy for them that now they've gotten all the information, education, resources, and energy that they need to build up their country. That's a beautiful thing. I am very happy for them. Now we can focus on ourselves. It's just like somebody else coming into your physical home. You didn't invite them here. Somebody else invited them here, and you were told you better like it. You better be okay that they are living in your house and they don't know your language. You better deal with it. And you better allow them to hold up their devices to you in your house. And you translate what they're trying to say, even though they're in your house. You better like it, or else you are racist and you're xenophobic, even though you didn't invite them and your enemy did in your house. Like it and live with it. And your enemy says, we're going to let them stay in your home and they're going to have protective status. We're going to say it's temporary. You better like it. And we don't know when that temporary protective status is going to end. And they can bring their husbands and their wives and their 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 wives that we call concubines or baby mamas. And we're going to give them your milk and your eggs and your home and your bed and your resources while they, their mother, their daddy, their grandmother, their grandparents, whoever they bring, and all 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 20, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, 65, 70, 75, 80, 85, 90, 95, 100 wives. And you're going to like it and you're going to shut up. And they can stay, they can talk about you, they can call you lazy in your house. And they can tell you, you don't want to work. We take the job that you don't want to do. We're washing the dishes that you don't want to wash in your house. So you better not say anything about it. And while I'm in your house, I'm going to wave my flag from my nation that is better than yours in your house. And you better like it. And I'm making you like it. And your enemy, the government who brought me here, says you better like it. You better not say anything about it. And then when you wake up and you say, okay, we're not having this anymore. You're not going to talk about me anymore. You're not going to mistreat me in my house anymore. I'm not going to stand it for anymore. And we have alliances. Even our own government that turned on us is now telling you they allow you to come into my house. It's telling you got to go home, and you have the audacity to stand me, look me in the face and say, I ain't leaving your house. I had a baby in your house. I brought my husband and my wife in your house. And I gave birth in your house. And I spoke my own language in my house, and I did my own custom in my house while talking about you and calling you lazy, shiftless, and you need to work hard. You don't want to work. You need to pull yourself by your bootstraps. And I'm waving my flag and speaking my language and doing my culture and dancing and singing and all this in your house. And I'm marching around your house and all around your house to say how much I hate your country while I'm living in your house. And I hate your house, I hate your family, and I hate your bloodline, but I'm living in your house. How? Somebody tell me if that makes sense, because I don't understand it. So they're saying, I'm not going home. I've had children in your house, and you're going to host me, and I'm going to sign up with and join forces with attorneys and judges to force you to like me being in your house and to force you to accept me and all my family members in your house. And we're going to do our own rules now. Nobody cares about your culture, your language, your rules. It's all about me. You see how they've done us? So people say, oh, don't be upset with the people who came here. But many of them, we remember, even the ones that are brown. Oh, no, don't you call me black. We ain't like you lazy Black Americans. We're better. Oh, we remember the language. We remember how you delineated yourself from us. We weren't even angry. A lot of people that's classified as Black American march with the same people who talked about us, march to keep them here, march through our programming, the Democratic Party, the liberal agenda, the Antifa, Black Lives Matter, marched to keep them here to use our resources living in our house. So you can't say we hate them, because we don't. But many of them make sure they hate us. And we remember how they treated us in their restaurants, in their stores. Dirty American. You remember that? You remember the ones when you would go to the hair shops and restaurants and the hotels, motels, how they would follow you through the stores? And how they would speak in their language. You might have had your translator in your purse and you got to see what they were saying. Or some of you know some of the languages and you can read their expressions. You didn't want to assume, but the way they would follow you in the store and tell you, you can't have that. And what do you want in here? While they were in your neighborhood. Remember that? You remember the Arab stores and convenience stores and gas stations that were in your communities peddling drugs? You remember that? And the police were working with them, but you couldn't say anything about it because the police would arrest you and you couldn't fight against the drug dealers in your community because they was getting the drugs from some of the Arabs who were on your land. Remember that? We know. Remember how we came to realize that almost 80% of the motels were owned by East Indians? So you got the ones that are here on H-1B visas. You got the ones that are here, and we talk about finance, engineer, medicine, and architect. And then now they're taking over factory jobs and entry-level service jobs and teaching jobs and daycare jobs and all that. And they also own motels. 80% of the motels are owned by East Indians. Were they trying to misplace the original indigenous Indians, legitimate, lawful Indians on the land? Because it seemed like they were working with the Chinese Communist Party, the Z Jews, the Zionists. It seemed like it was a group, the Ukrainian MAFIA. It was just so many foreign nationals that were here controlling and owning the banks, controlling and owning farmland, controlling and owning lands around the military bases, taking the service industry jobs, owning the motel. 80% of the motels owned by East Indians. Some research say 80, some say 60 to 80%. And they all come from one bloodline family, from one small place in India, whose last name happens to be Patel. Don't we have Patels in the government? They own, so you have them owning the motels. You have 50 to 60% of the convenience stores and gas stations owned by East Indians as well. Were they trying to take over? Just asking a question. That's why H-1B visas have to end. That's why birthright citizenship has to end. Because they dropped off their children here if they didn't come over here just to work. And they could either send their kids back with an American passport and citizenship, or they could just keep them here and have them educated here and go live all their lives here. And the parents would receive welfare, food stamps, housing, and medical benefits. We have to end this because Americans are suffering. Do these people that are here not care at all about Americans? Because we're very vocal about the fact that we're homeless. I'm not homeless, but I know what it's like. And many people are homeless on the streets. Do they not walk across homeless people along their path? Or are they so protected in their cushiony tree-lined neighborhoods and gated communities that they don't see the homeless? We have veterans that are homeless and on the streets. We have single parents, women and children that are homeless, some of whom are being kicked out of government-assisted housing so that the houses can be given to foreign nationals. We have people from different homelands from the continent of Asia that have allegedly siphoned billions of dollars from the American government or the United States government, saying that they were creating some type of programs and housing for children in daycare centers, only to find out that these daycare centers don't exist. Only also to find out these people that says they need money from the government for businesses. We've come to realize that some of these businesses are shell corporations. You go to the addresses, they don't exist. Or the addresses seem to be a restaurant, and then you come to find out that they were laundering money and trafficking children. This is now documented. That's why we have to do something about this. We have a major migratory issue. Those are the exact words from the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, that we have to address. And it's going to be uncomfortable for many foreign nationals and Americans as we go through a transitional process to clean up all the things that have happened here. So we got to get rid of illegal immigrants and legal immigrants. Some people ask, why is Trump going after legal immigrants? How could he? Because even though they're legal now, some of them came here illegally. And they became legal by seeking asylum. All they had to do was say, I'm scared to go back home, and they could seek asylum and be allowed to stay here. Or they enter into illegal marriages. But then you have to remember that what's legal is not lawful. So it might seem legitimate to the United States Incorporated, but is it legitimate according to the Republic, the lawful government for these great United States of America? So we've entered into a realm where America is going to be for Americans only, and those who come from abroad who are going to do something to benefit Americans. They have to go back to their homelands, and they have to apply for correct their status and apply for status to come here the correct way. And they have to come on a gold card, meaning they have to get a card that costs about $1 million, and they have to create businesses that will benefit Americans. This is something that all countries around the world are doing as well, and some of them already do it. So America is for Americans and for people that want to live here lawfully, not even legitimate or legally, lawfully, and do something to provide benefits for Americans. This is the reality into which we're going. Now, I hear what people are saying when they say you should be able to travel wherever you want to go. There should be open borders, but you always have to protect your borders. You have to protect the culture of the people. You have to protect the mental and emotional and physical well-being of the people, because a lot of people who don't share your bloodline don't have your best interests at heart, which is why we have so many misdiagnoses, which is why we have poisonous food and poisonous air and poisonous this, that, and the other, because people that come from other bloodlines don't necessarily have our best interest at heart, especially if they're only here to enrich themselves, because we know that many people that came here were already rich. And even if they came here for a better opportunity, it was only supposed to be temporary. It's for a short period of time so you can get yourself where you need to be, so you can accumulate the knowledge and information that you need and desire, and then you go back to your homeland and you build it up. So if you fully believe in open borders, then know what that means. Be prepared for it. And make sure you can apply that when you open up your doors to your house, because an open border is the same as opening up your doors to your house, leaving it unlocked and letting whomever will come in there, bringing their language, their culture, and their ways that may be completely different from your own. So if you're okay with opening up all your ports of entry, your back door, your front door, your windows, making sure people can come underground and come into your home without vetting them out. If you can do that, then we can have a conversation about open borders. But unless and until you come to that frame of mind and you actually do that, practice it, implement that in your lifestyle, let me know how it works out for you, and then we can have a conversation. But until then, we will have borders, just like other countries have borders, and we have laws for how people ought to conduct themselves when they come into our country, just like I have laws and rules for how people are to conduct themselves when they come into my house. The first thing you do when you come to that door, first, you have to be invited, not just by anybody in the house. You have to be invited by the man and the woman of the house, the matriarch and the patriarch of the house. You have to be invited. You can't be invited by the enemy. You can't just bum rush your way or find your way wandering into my house. You have to be invited by me. Then you come to the door and you understand there are terms and agreements that you will agree with to, not somebody else's terms and agreements. You will agree to the terms and agreements that my husband and I set for you before you enter my door. Then you would remove your shoes at my door, because all whatever filth you brought from the outside, you will not bring into my home. So you invited by my husband and me. You understand the terms and agreement. You agree to the terms and agreement. You know the consequences if you do not agree to them. And then you come to my door after you've been invited by me. We have an understanding or an overstanding, and you have an understanding. Then you wipe your feet outside my door. You come inside my door. You remove your shoes. You acknowledge me and my husband and my children, and you respect every single rule in my house, and you will agree to them and abide by them, and you will walk circumspectly, and you will respect everybody in my house, my bloodline, my community while you're living in my house, and you will speak my language in my house, and you abide by and agree to and assimilate to my culture in my home. Otherwise, you will be exited out, and you will not only be exited out, you will be escorted out, and it may or may not be in a nice, kind manner. It depends on how you entered my house and conducted yourself while you were in my home. And that will go for you and everybody else that's associated with you and your bloodline. Why should a country be any differently? The only people that want to live off somebody else's land and resources are people that don't have respect for those people that are already living on the land. But it's a new day and it's a new season. We will have respect. We will respect ourselves as the indigenous American people here on these lands, and we command everybody else that entered this country to do the same. And the good thing is that we even have a president that agrees. Welcome to America. Welcome to a new reality. And the good thing is that every other country has the same rules. They're tightening up their borders. They've already had rules and border regulations and agreements and understanding and overstanding. People can just come into their country and overstay the visa without dealing with the consequences. You might get arrested. You will get arrested and or pay a fine. Why is it different in America? It's because the people that enslaved the Americans and had us as prisoners of war didn't care about anybody. Because just like they brought the Europeans in here and gave them benefits, they turned on them. After they mistreated us as bad as they could, flooded our neighborhoods with drugs and guns, and oppressed us as much as they could, they did the same thing to the Europeans they brought over here. That's when drugs became a problem. When they kicked them out of their houses, just like they kicked us off our land and out of our houses. You don't believe me? Think about what happened in 2008, the housing crisis. It was the middle class Caucasians that were storming the streets because they had their homes taken away from the banks. They had variable interest rates that had gotten out of control. They could not afford their homes because the deep state doesn't care about anybody. The bloodline beings that enslaved this planet don't care about anybody. And as soon as they oppress the Caucasians as much as they could, put them on drugs, put the children on drugs, after they studied their bloodline to see what drug their children would attach to, stole their homes, took them out of job. Guess what they did? Then they start bringing other foreign nationals here and start giving them the houses, them the medical benefits, gave them the jobs. And you know what's important about following how the Nephilim do, or the Draconians, reptilians, whatever these beings are? The thing about that is they would have turned on the foreign nationals too. They would have just found some other way to replace them. But it's a new reality. At least they get to go home and make their home great again. So the ones that were saying our country is so great, you American people, you don't know how to keep your families intact. You know how they talked about us? You don't have family culture. You're not educated. You don't have national pride. You don't know how to work. Well, now they can go and they can take that pride right back home to their families, and they can have good family culture there. And they can have their whatever National Pride Day and the flags, they can wave it there, and they can do all that marching and screaming and crying and all that yelling and no King's rally protests and stuff they do over here. They can do it to their leaders. You're welcome. Everything you learned here, if you're under the sound of my voice, you are very welcome. But enough is enough. We have women and children on the street now, living in cars and vans. We have veterans that fought for this great nation, homeless and on drugs because they're in despair and despondent. We have men that can't provide for their wives and children, or for the woman into which they're in the intercovenant agreement. Men who feel like they are worthless because they can't take care of their families. Men who are talked about and mistreated because they don't have the means to provide, because so many foreign nationals. I told you, just the H-1B visas alone, 90,000 per year, and then 400,000 that are renewed each year. We're not even talking about the F1 students visas, or all of the people that come here on tourism visas that overstay their visas. We're not even talking about the ones that come on fiance visas and all these different visas and overstay and never leave. And they were allowed to do a change of status while here in America after their visas expired, and wait for the green card. If it took 10 years, 20 years, or never came, they were allowed to work here legally and get a work permit. How? While Americans didn't have jobs. The government was not our friend. So people that are upset that the government is being dismantled, please know that now you have the opportunity as sovereign beings to figure out a way. We are resilient. The human race is resilient. We will figure it out. All the people that are saying, how are y'all going to make it? We do this and we do that in your country. We have the restaurants. We run the hospitals. And they're right. 1/4 of the medical professionals here in America are foreign nationals. Some statistics say 1/3. Make that make sense. You guys don't even know how to grow your own food. We do the work in the fields. Don't play with us. You think my people, the indigenous people who taught the Europeans how to live here when they were giving us diseases, we taught them how to plant? You think we didn't have bloodlines and generations that did farming? You can take that same energy back to your homeland and you can plant food over there and feed your generation, because we are fed up with the entitlement and the disrespect that we Americans and some of the United States citizens have received, because these new arrivals, they think they're better than the older arrivals. That the older arrivals are sick of the new arrivals. They're ratting them out. They're saying, wait, my people came here and we've been here for many generations, and we had to do paperwork. We had to learn English. We had to denounce our nation. We had to assimilate. That's what a lot of the older arrivals from different homelands are saying. Foreign nationals. We had to denounce our allegiance, forge an allegiance with Americans, learn their culture, learn their ways, be respectful, learn how to do customer service. But the new arrivals who get all these entitlement benefits feel that they're even better than the older arrivals. That's what they're saying. So now they can go home and they can make their country great, and we'll focus on America and make America great again. For the people that ask me, when was America ever great? Please study history and herstory, because apparently you haven't read enough books. Now it's time out for people being handheld and told what to do and how to do and what happened. It's time for people to grow up and figure it out. We're adults, most of us now. Many of us are elders. We will figure it out. We will learn. If we forgot how to grow our food, trust me, when you get hungry, you're going to figure it out. You're going to learn that just like I just ate this piece of fruit, I'm going to put it in the ground and I'm going to put some water on it and I'm going to watch it spring up. It ain't that hard. And if it is hard, we'll figure it out. We'll get with our neighbors. We don't care where you come from, what your color look like. If you know how to grow food and you can reteach me or remind me, I'm working with you. And you can respect me and I can respect you, I'm working with you. We'll figure it out. You think we can't build our own furniture? I got grandchildren that's 10 that can do that. You think we can't make our own clothes? My 10-year-old and right now designs dresses. She stitches them with needle and thread on her own, cuts out patterns on her own. You think we can't figure that out just because you came here and got some benefits? Oh, no, no, no. We don't need hotels and motels. We'll go back to the old way. We'll go stay with Aunt Susan, Uncle Leroy, a friend of a friend, Billy Bob, Uncle John. Heck, I remember being in college and I had a Caucasian girlfriend, honey. We was in the hollers of West Virginia, by golly. I was scared out my mind when it got dark out there. I was scared out my mind. But you know what? She was my friend. And her family wasn't too friendly with the coloreds because they were in West Virginia. They didn't see a lot of us. But they treated me with kindness and respect. They fed me and they took care of me, let me stay there for whatever time I spent with my friend, because we went to her house and it was about time for her to go visit her family. She was like, well, you can come with me since you spent some time with me. I was like, in the hollers? They call them the hollows of West Virginia. The hollers? Girl, is you crazy? Not like, you mean ain't that one of them sundown towns where they say the black folk used to have to be in by the time the sun go down? She said, but we're not like that. My family's like that. All I'm saying is if you treat us right, we'll treat you right. And if you know something I don't know, and I know something you don't know, I'm gonna work with you. So all those people that say y'all ain't gonna do well when we leave because we take the jobs that y'all want, just go ahead and leave and we'll figure it out. And take that energy to your homeland and make your country great. That's all you need to be concerned about, not what we do over here. And this land is your land, this land is my land, from New York Island to some. No, 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 no. America is for Americans. Now we can do business with people and we can have covenant agreements, but the United States Incorporated doesn't get to dictate who can come to our homelands. That's all we're saying. And if people don't understand that, well, they can go home and get a better understanding. And by the way, speaking of other homelands, President Donald Trump's administration is closing embassies abroad. So he's not only deporting legal and illegal immigrants, because legal is not lawful. You can be here legally all day long, but that don't mean you're constitutionally lawful able to stay here. But we're closing the embassies, which people are complaining about, but I thought you didn't want us in your business. All these countries that said, well, we had to come to America because the United States Incorporated, they enslaved our people in our countries, or they mistreated our people, or they created wars and they established themselves in our country and they did this. Okay, well, now we're removing ourselves from your country and we're closing the embassies, and you can focus on your homeland and your leaders can make your country great and we'll come visit you. But see, unlike most people that came here, Americans, we understand our place when we go abroad, because they don't play with your black tail or your white tail when you're American. They don't care what color you are. You come over here, we'll treat you well while you're here, but you overstay your visa and you're going to get locked up just like everybody else. And you have a child on their land, your child doesn't automatically become a citizen or get a passport, and you certainly ain't getting no government benefits, and you don't even get a right to vote in some of these countries, if any of them. So it's a whole new world and a new reality. President Trump is questioning birthright citizenship and all these visas and all this because the United States Incorporated, which afforded these statuses and opportunities, is now bankrupt, defunct, has no money, and going bye-bye. And we should be glad because we've all had a problem with the IRS. We never felt like we should be able to tax anybody to live. We all understand by now and understand that these government agencies don't care about us. They make us get fishing license to fish in our own lakes and ponds. They make us get marriage license in order to enter covenant agreements. They force us to do all type of things that were against us. Now we're entering into a time where we'll have sovereignty, freedom, prosperity, and wealth. Welcome to the new golden age. My name is Dr. Kia Pruitt. I advise you to prepare for the new reality. We know that they might close things down, or they might just decide to have a time of disclosure where they let us know what's really been going on behind the scenes. But it is always my hope that when you come here, I provide you with some information on how to live a wonderful life, how to accumulate wealth for your posterity, how to live a highly self-actualized life, how to leave a legacy behind. What is the impact that you will have on society? What are you determined to leave behind for your posterity, meaning your future generations, and for the world at large? My purpose is to raise the vibrations of the planet and help you to create an amazing, magnificent life that you desire and deserve. And I know in my soul that I'm doing it well because you let me know. And the whole world is being liberated by the work that we are doing alone. Even though people called us insane conspiracy theorists, now they're waking up and they see that we all have been enslaved. Doesn't matter about your skin complexion. They didn't care about none of us, any of us. They wanted our organs, our blood, and our energy, and they harvested as much as they could from us. They knew their time was coming to a close. Their time frame to run this world was coming to an end. Now they say that the adversary, so-called Satan, has been in chains. The beings in power were put in chains, and they say, well, it will be that way for 1,000 years. My question is, what are we going to do within that 1,000-year period? Because if it's true that these beings and these energies will only be enchained for 1,000 years, what's going to happen when that 1,000 years is up? That's up to you and me. What are we going to do between now and 1,000 years to make sure we'll never go through this again? We'll never, as a human species, be enslaved again. What are we going to do? For one, we need to stop fighting and arguing with each other. We need to stop fighting and arguing with our husbands and wives or spouses. We need to bring the family back together. And we need to establish community so that we can all thrive together. In the meantime, we know wealth is coming. We know all of our debts are going to be wiped away. We know we're all going to receive universal high income. You can look up my videos on UHI, universal high income, if you don't know what it is. We're all going to be wealthy. We're going to have access to our trust. Trillions of dollars are going to be injected into the global economy, and we're going to have world peace. But if it's true, it's only going to last 1,000 years. We need to get to work right away. Tomorrow's too late. We should be working right now. What is your vision for your life? What is your mission? Your mission is what you're determined to do right now. What is your purpose? Why did you decide to come on this planet? What is your purpose? What is the impact you're going to leave on society? That's your mission statement. Look up mission statement. Create one. Live by it. You should have a mission statement and a vision statement. Your vision is what you see for the future. Your mission is what you're living right now. The vision is what you see for the future. You should have a mission statement and a vision statement for yourself, and a mission statement and a vision statement for your family. And then you can have a mission statement and a vision statement for your community. And then a community should come together and have a mission statement and a vision statement for their society or their country. So your society is comprised and built upon several communities, and your community is built upon and comprised of several families, and your family is built upon and comprised upon you and your covenant partner or companion. And then that will be healthy based on who you are. So we got a lot of work to do. Never allow us to be enslaved again. Never allow a corporation or entities to come and take your wealth again, come and miseducate your children, come and propagandize you. Never allow that to happen again. And we have to take some responsibility and ownership for what we've allowed. So you and I have been enslaved and we are considered prisoners of war. But some of us have agreed to some of the enslavement. It's called tacit agreement. If we go along with these people's evil ways and we don't even fight against it or reject it, then we have agreed to it. It's tacit agreement. That's literally the definition of tacit agreement, to go along with and not reject it. So if you don't want your children to be enslaved, why would you send them to the slave master to be educated? If we don't want our family members to pass away in the hospitals, why don't we come up with the healing modalities and healing centers and the herbalists? We got to bring that all back. If you don't want somebody teaching you how to build up their corporation, then why are we leaving our farms to go work in the cities? See what I'm saying? Why are we selling off land? Because some of it was stolen and some of it was sold off. Because the children and the grandchildren didn't understand the importance of land being land, and they didn't know that land was wealth. If you live off the land and you eat off the land, what do you need a job for? But some people were tricked into selling their land to go and work in the city. And some people were tricked into, or they got enticed by what they thought America offered by watching television. So they sold their land while they lived in other countries and they paid the cartel to come to America to only have to pay taxes to the United States government. Imagine if they had kept that time, energy, and wealth right back at home and built up the farmland. What could they have done if they worked together to clean up the sewers, to feed the people with the farmlands that they had rather than rushing off to go live on somebody else's land and absorb their wealth? Some of the enslavement that we have endured is because we've agreed to it. We might not have said, yes, put me in chains, yes, tax me. But by turning over our children to their daycare centers at 6 weeks, when they were still should be on the breast or still be, coddled and taken care of by the family, we're literally giving them over to the enemy. And then they're educated by the enemy. Now, they will get some benefits from the education system. I certainly did. What I'm saying is, if you don't want your children to be propagandized at any level, we have to educate them ourselves. Every person can't do that or doesn't have the state of mind to do it. But there's somebody in the community that can, but it's hard to detect who can do it if you don't have a community. It's hard to have a community if everybody moving away or being kicked out of the house at 18 or deciding to leave at 18. So we can never allow this to happen again, family. What are we going to do? We have time. So this time, before everything shuts down or everything completely transitions, we need to start thinking about and executing a plan to take care of our own babies, birth our own babies so they won't be mistreated in hospitals and circumcised and have their penises cut off. We need to birth our own babies, nurse our own babies, educate our own babies, take care of our own babies, take care of our women, help our women, teach our women how to cook and clean, because the same people that say, don't teach women how to cook and clean, you're taking them back to the 1920s. Okay, smarty pants, what happens when her biology kicks in and she gets pregnant? Now you taught her how to work, you taught her how to go to somebody's school and build up somebody else's network, but now that she gets pregnant because her biology kicked in, it's only nature to procreate, she doesn't know how to cook or take care of a baby. We're just so smart, too smart for our own good. Don't teach women how to cook and clean. You're enslaving them. You just want them to be enslaved to a man. Okay, smarty pants, like I said, how is she going to take care of the child? So what happens is they say, I'm not ready for a child, so they abort it. And then we get so high and mighty, aborting a baby, that's not murder, May. That's just another way to take a birth. That's a birth. No, you can have that. That's birth control because the man by which she had the baby is no good, or he's this, or I'm not ready. So I can unalive my child and I can allow the doctors and the nurses to take the organs from my baby to eat and drink and feed themselves because many of them are draconians, reptilians. I don't care about that. The fetus may have a heartbeat, but I don't care because somebody else's system, a draconian system, told me that the heart beating child or something that's in my womb is not a living being. You see how and we don't even realize that the woman who led this whole movement probably wasn't even literally a woman, okay? Was paid by the same system y'all claim to hate. Oh, we hate the patriarchy, but the patriarchy is what funded genocide and what funded abortion. What is wrong with our minds? Somebody help me. We've agreed to our own enslavement. Some of the children that were supposed to come through our wombs were the messiahs for your bloodline. They might not have been the ones that would liberate the whole planet, or they could have been the messiah that was coming in to liberate your bloodline or my bloodline. But I get it. We were deceived. We were propagandized. We were manipulated. We were controlled, and we agreed to it because some of us went along with it. That's what I mean by some slavery is actually agreed upon. So we don't want that to happen again. We birth our own children. We teach the women how to not be in relationships and have relations until they're ready. If you're not ready to be a mother and raise a child, you don't get on your back and spread your legs, period. And if you as a man aren't ready and in position to take care of a child, then you don't mount on top of a woman, period. And if we find out in the village that you've taken advantage of a woman, we deal with you swiftly and harshly so that it never happens again. And everybody in the community learns how a man ought to behave himself. You see how that works? The community has to get back together. I don't care if it's a man or a woman or men and women together that decides what the rules should be. We need to get it together rather than arguing, oh, it should be a patriarchy. It should be a matriarchy. Down with the patriarchy. Down with this. When we get some sense, we'll sit down and we'll have both come and all come to the table and have agreements on how we ought to run our household and our community. But don't tell me about what a society should be like if you can't control your own body and your own family and your own household. That makes no sense to me. But as long as we keep giving ourselves and our energy and our time and our children to the enemy, we're going to continue to be enslaved. We can't let this happen again, family. That's all I'm saying. Where are the herbalists? Come on out. We need you now. People talked about you and said you didn't make sense. You were studying herbs and this isn't conventional medicine. We need you now. We repent. We're turning from our wicked ways. That's what repentance is, to turn around. We need you. The doulas, we need you. The birthing women, we need you. And men, we need you. But it's birthing women. The priests, the priestesses, the ones that understand how we behave according to our tribal ways, no matter what tribe or country you come from, we need you. Who's going to teach the children? You don't know how to settle conflict? Why are we going to the courthouse? Because that's the system in which we live. We get it. Now we need to create our own system. That's where the elders need to come to the table and say, you need to do this, you need to do that, and we're going to judge you and your situation. If you're out of control, we're going to tell you, you're going to know you're out of control because we already have rules, and if you break those rules, we're going to judge you and say you broke a rule. That's what judgment is, and there will be consequences. Where are the judges? I don't care if it's a man or a woman. I need a righteous person who knows the law, lives by the law, and can help enforce the law to make and pass judgments in the family first and then the community. But as long as we do this, don't judge me, I do whatever I want to, you're going to continue to have chaos, and somebody else going to knock you upside the head when you break one of their rules. Where are the enforcers of the law in our community, in the family? Where's the enforcer of the law? Most of the enforcers of the law We're the fathers in many families, but we don't have a lot of fathers in the home. Do you want to tell me you want to have a female-led society where there's nobody bringing about order? So what happens when your son or your uncle or your grandfather or another man steps out of line and breaks the law? You as a woman, you're going to enforce it. Tell me how that's going to look, because I'm just trying to figure it out. We need enforcers. We need law enforcers in the families and in the communities. And when something needs to be fixed, like the infrastructure, like the bridges, like the homes, like the buildings, who's going to do it? We're the architects. So why are we complaining about the system and how we hate the system? We can't stand the system. We so tired of being enslaved if you're not even skilled to build the homes yourself. We're the architects. We're going to figure it out, but this is the time. Those babies that know how to design and they're drafting, we used to have drafting classes in high school. They're drafting and they're doing little doodling and design. Teach them how to design a building. Instead of being out being concerned about sexing, partying, having a good time, and do what feels good, teach the babies how to design a house. Teach the babies how to farm. Teach the babies how to create clothes. Teach the babies how to teach. Teach the young girls how to be a mother, how to nurse, how to take care of baby, how to cook, how to clean. Teach the young men how to build a house, how to build a tree house, how to fish, how to go and hunt. You could teach the little girls how to hunt for all I care. Just teach somebody something rather than having a good time. Instead of being on these games and devices, having fun and partying and kicking it and sexing and arguing about whether or not you should have polygyny or polyamory or this or that, why don't you and me teach the babies how to lead and do certain things for society so we can never end up in this position where we got to go to the government for entitlement benefits. That's crazy that we've been so dependent upon our enemy for housing, food, clothes, and medical benefits when that's the job of me and you. And when you accumulate wealth and protect your assets, you'll be able to pass down that wealth to your family members and teach them how to keep it while you're teaching them a skill. While I'm teaching them a skill. That's it. That's all I have to say, because that's what I'm doing in my family. What are we doing as a society? We can never let this happen again, and we will never let it happen again. We command our wealth, our sovereignty, our freedom, and our prosperity and our peace, because abundance is our birthright. Abundance is your birthright, no matter what part of the world you come from. It should give you pride and joy to go back to your homeland and the land of your ancestors to build up something with all the knowledge and the information you gained here while in America. And if your families won't go with you, then there's something wrong with your family. It is not my problem or the government's problem that your family will let you get deported and not follow you back home. They didn't love you to begin with. Their allegiance is questionable. If you get deported or you're on the verge of deportation, you shouldn't be crying to me or my government about how you were separated from your family, because your family should be going with you. That's something you need to take up with your family. Because we taking care of ours, you take care of yours. But it's a great opportunity for each of us to take control of our lives, our families, and our communities and build up a healthy society. I love you, family, with all my heart, mind, and soul. And I'm so grateful for this new reality. If you prepare yourself, you will not struggle. If you prepare yourself, you will live an abundant, amazing life. It takes preparation. It's not just about the government, the Galactic Federation, or the ancestors. They're doing our job. We have to do ours. And that's what I'm here to teach you, to show you, and to learn from you as well. We're learning as we go along. So family, I love you so much. I'm grateful for the time we spent together. I apologize I wasn't able to, or didn't take the liberty to read the comment section, but we'll come back on tomorrow and we will take the time to converse together and I'll read your comments. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your energy. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for those of you who sent a Cash App to me. Thank you for those of you who joined a private membership group. You can hit any of the join buttons on my YouTube channel and you follow the prompts, you will be in. We have a silver tier and a gold tier. The members tell me that the membership group is very beneficial. You learn about wealth, you learn about legacy, you learn about asset protection, and you learn about many, many other things, currencies, and all that. We talk about all that in a private group. So I love you so much, and I'll see you on the other side. Take care. Good night, family. And I hope you have a very happy 4th of July season. See you tomorrow. Peace.